Hello and welcome to a Cheltenham Festival preview, and you'll notice there is a slight difference. I'm joined by Joe from Ginger Joe Racing Show. I think it's Ginger Joe Racing Show, right? Because it's like the
Yeah,
sound.
that's it. You got it.
Beautiful. So I'll stick a link in the description for his YouTube channel. You've probably seen him on Twitter as well, but I'll stick his Twitter handle in the description as well, so you can go give him a follow. But we are going to try and just crack on with all the races at Cheltenham, if we've got a view on them, where we think our money's going to go, and the bits that we fancy in those. We did and ah if we're going to look at Doncaster. I've looked at a couple of races, which I'll give a little quick mention to, and then I'll push to Joe in case he's got any. If not, it will mostly be Cheltenham related. Joe, are you ready just to crack on, or do you need to say anything to the viewers before?
Got 9 races at Cheltenham on a Saturday, Dave. Let's get straight into it.
There is an precautionary inspection at midday tomorrow. So we're recording this Thursday night. That's going out on the Friday, the inspection midday. But they've said if they can't run it Saturday, they'll just run it Sunday. They're asking the BHA if they're allowed to move it. So I'm pretty sure it's going to go ahead. So we've got no worries on that front before anyone starts commenting. We will kick off with the first race, funnily enough. JCB Triumph Hurdle. It's a decent race. Like, it's a grade 2. Defy won this before when he's gone and won it. And we've had the likes of Apple Shakira going and winning it as well. It's another JP horse. Comfort Zone's been installed as the 9-4 favourite. When I looked at this race, Joe, I was a bit like I feel like it was much of a muchness with the top 4 in the bet. And I know there's one that you're probably gonna like a little bit, but I thought Comfort Zone obviously did win the last day. Maybe could have done it a bit easier. But now there's the £5 pull with him and Dixon Cove. I thought, well, Dixon Cove's got to be in with a bit of a chance as well. Jupiter de Geet did get like the age and weight allowance stuff at Newbury, but was still pretty impressive. But I'm just not sold on that one just yet. But again, see why it might be short enough in the market. And then Scriptwriter, of course, lots of potential in the way that Milton Harris talks about this horse, saying that he's probably better than Night Salute. That's like a big compliment in the horse. The rest of the field I thought was much of a muchness. It has been priced up now. I feel like they're all a bit short, to be honest with you. I like to be trying greedy and try and get a bit of value. So I don't know if I'll be betting anything in this. I think if I was gun to head and someone says I've got to have a selection, I'd take a bit of a punt on Dixon Cove. But he is only about 11-4, 3-1. And I don't think there's much juice in that, given the fact, as much as he's getting the £5 pull, he's still got to go and beat Comfort Zone again. So are you any more convinced in this race than I am on anything?
I am a little bit, yeah, definitely. I mean, first of all, there was Jupiter de Geet. Like you said, I'm not totally convinced by that win at Newbury as well. I think the fact that Connections let him go off at 66-1 tells you a little bit of the story as well. So the question is, can he back that up? And then can he back that up against some better horses in the race as well? Obviously, Comfort Zone's got that grade 2 form in the book now. But like you said, there's a £5 swing with Dixon Cove. So I would like to just side with the improver, which, as you probably guessed for me, is going to be Scriptwriter. I do think this race may plan out to be between the first 2 in the betting. I still think Comfort Zone's better than Dixon Cove. And it may actually be a case that the winner goes to the Triumph, then potentially the runner-up ends up taking the Boodles route. But I like Scriptwriter. He's a really good horse. A lot of people have crabbed his jump in the last day, but he still managed to win quite convincingly come the line. They were very brave in taking him to Wolverhampton, but of course he's got that flat breeding to pick up that 30k pot, which was smart because he picked up more money that day than Comfort Zone did for winning the grade 2. And I think that's just left a lot more improvement. He's a better horse than Comfort Zone on the flat. So I'm quite a big fan. I think there's a lot to like about Scriptwriter moving forward. And just one more thing to add to that, a lot of people are crabbing the flat breeding coming into these juvies, but Comfort Zone himself is a Churchill, so it's a bit of a son versus son, brother versus brother situation. But Scriptwriter for me in this one, Dave.
Yeah, fair enough. And that was the thing, like I said, touched on. I thought they'd all be sort of, maybe not exactly much for muchness, but I thought they'd be all in and around the same price. So the fact that he is the biggest price of the 4, I reckon I can see a bit of support for him. Let's move on. 12-10 onto the second of the 9 races. It is a Novices Handicap Chase. Loads of people get annoyed with this race now, don't they? Because the I forget what it was called now. The Close Brothers Chase has been taken away from the festival, so it is annoying. I did the tissue on this one early with a couple of lads in a group, so that's what I did for the Triumph one. I don't think I was too far off. Made a bit of a rick on this one because when the Racing Post first update the final fields, they tend to leave the handicap stuff at the bottom in there. So Fire Dancer right at the bottom, I thought was well and truly out the handicap, so I gave him little chance, even though I was aware that he won quite comfortably the last day. After I sent the tissue across to my mates, they both said that they wanted to have a lump on this Fire Dancer at the price that I chalked him up. So I had a little readjustment of it. And I do think this horse had like loads and loads and loads in hand on that debut, despite the fact the only one like just close to the line, is just ahead, was Cantering. I went back and watched it again, like fully had bundles left. And I talked about Gaelic Warrior last year with his French ratings, about like what mark he probably could have been. This Fire Dancer, based off his few French runs, probably should be about 137-ish, I'd say. So the fact that it's 120 and come back from that like 818-day layoff, you could see why he's probably going to be the favourite. I think he's an okayish price. Like, I wouldn't want to be getting massively stuck in. So I do think it's competitive enough. But obviously there is the potential he could be a stone better than all of them. So I'm going to back Fire Dancer for sure. But the other one I quite like is Dalamoy. I think Dalamoy's too big a price. A bit unlucky the last day. They seem to have kept him off since then. Maybe waiting for ground, or maybe the horse just needed a bit of time. But I thought he'd be half the price. He's 8-1 at the minute with William Hill, 7-1 everywhere else. There will be extended places with lots of bookies in this race. So I'd probably be looking at Dalamoy as a saver. I won't bother with the each way stuff. And then I'll back Fire Dancer for the win. How did you see it, mate?
Not too dissimilar, to be honest. I do quite like this favourite. Maybe the inexperience may catch him out a tiny bit. Quite a big field at Cheltenham. But like you said, he did it really nicely first time out as well. Not too keen on having a bet in this one, though, to be honest with you, Dave. I do like Stage Star as a horse, but top weight in a handicap at Cheltenham, I just feel like they've sort of given up the mark there with him a bit, really. And even though Cobden's been riding out of his skin, he's not something I'd really want to be getting involved with. If I was to take a little punt, I'd maybe actually have a little squeak of Panic Attack. Only on the basis that David Pipe seems to be a rejuvenated stable this year. I don't fancy too much at the top of the market, but he does have some pretty decent form at Cheltenham, just back from his bumper days and his novice days. So I'd give him a slight squeak, Dave, but I wouldn't really be looking to back anything here, I don't think.
Yeah, fair enough. I think it is one of those races, and this Fire Dancer could just go and absolutely bolt up. But again, from the prices in behind, Dalamoy was the one that stood out to me a little bit. So not one to get too excited about, but I think there'll be a few people getting smashed into this Fire Dancer. In the cross-country handicap chase, this wouldn't be a race that I typically look at, to be honest with you, because I think some of the bigger guns will have eyes on something further on in the season, and on this weight allowance and all that sort of stuff. Like, it's very difficult for me to get a real betting handle on it. So it's much more of a novelty race. Is there anything you want to say or you fancy in it?
Not to add too much to the obvious as well, but with Down to Earth, it seems quite big going in there at 11-4 though off top weight, but it's not really going to be a bet for me. I think if he doesn't go, because I think the plan may be that he actually doesn't go to this race, is they've still got Mortal in this race at 20-1. He's actually had a spin around here as well, and I think the course experience is actually vital with these sort of horses as well. Experience is definitely key, and I think he'll come on for that run as well. But not too much from a punting angle. Again, like you said, it's been saved from another meeting, this one, Dave. But we do need this one, obviously, for some of them to get their entry for the race in March. One to sit back and watch for me, but potentially interesting that Patrick Mullins is on Roy Marge here for Patrick Griffin. That's a little bit of a sneaky horse, and he has come in for a little bit of money early on. So there may be a little bit of a plot with that one. But for me, not too much interest, again, to be honest with you.
Happy days. It's a good job we've got 9 races, isn't it? Because there's a couple of them that are a little bit meh. But the good thing is, that's the point, isn't it? You get yourself to a decent race meeting. It's not necessarily always about the betting, but when you do get these 9 races, there are a couple potentially to get stuck into. Is the rearranged Clarence House Chase going to be one you want to get stuck into? Because for me, I've always been not against Edwardstone, but I don't think I've ever given him the credit that he's probably due. I just think Energumene's going to batter him. So I'd leave it as that for me. What do you make of the race? Do you think Edwardstone can do him?
I don't think he can beat him, no, but what I do think we're going to see, and I hope we see as well, is that they're both all out come the finishing line. I can just see whatever happens to Edwardstone, I think Energumene is going to be 2 or 3 lengths too good. I'm similar to you, though, not always been a massive fan of Edwardstone. Didn't really like the 2-mile novice form from last year. It keeps proving me wrong. But when he got to Sandown, he did have a really nice turn of foot. So if he can put that to use, then he's going to have a really good chance. However, that does now mean that Energumene knows what he's going to have to do. He's going to have to probably dictate the pace a little bit. And I think Energumene, if he has 1 or 2 errors, I think he could sit back on the bridle, where I think Edwardstone's got to be foot perfect to get within those 2 or 3 lengths. So not a bet race again, Dave, but certainly one I hope goes close to keep the Champion Chase in interesting watch for sure.
Yeah, mate. And I think that could easily happen, couldn't it? Because Energumene was obviously very good in the Champion Chase, but the race fell apart, didn't it? With, I don't think Chacon finished either. Shishkin wasn't finishing in there. Obviously, when Shishkin and him did meet Ascot, it does show that Energumene is proven as an absolute, not a worldie horse. Well, maybe he's a worldie. He's a very, very, very good horse. But this tactically is going to be very different, isn't it? And it's going to be a very interesting watch. Again, from a betting perspective, sometimes I don't mind getting stuck into some short-priced ones, but I feel like the market's probably got it bob on there, so I won't be getting stuck into either of them. Well, definitely not Edwardstone anyway. Then we've got the Paddy Power. I was going to read the whole title out. I might as well do it now. Paddy Power Cheltenham Countdown Podcast Handicap Chase. Premier Handicap. This is one where in the little WhatsApp group that I've got, there's a couple of boys in there that have been going absolute mad for Fugitive. So I don't. I mean, I probably will have to look a little bit more, but I don't really look into the race too much because when these boys put their head together and they come up with one they quite like, and a few other people mention the same sort of horse, they tend to do quite well. So they are pretty strong and fugitive. William Hill and Skybet are going 6 places on this. You can extend to 6 places on Bet365 as well. I think if you do it on Bet365, I think he worked out as just over 5-1, but he's in and around 5-1 for 6 places, a fifth of the odds. So for like the scummy each way betters out there, they're saying there's no way he'll be outside the first 4. So there's no way he'll be outside the first 6. So Fugitive is one I've got a few quid on, not my own doing though. So have you looked into it on your own eyes?
Yeah, quite like this race, to be honest. And like you said, definitely worth taking advantage of the each way places with it being as open as it is. It's not a race where you're going to be landing a nap selection. But like you said, sometimes one can come for some support, Dave, and can prevail. And that might be Fugitive. I definitely see the angle why they fancy that for sure. I take a little bit of a chance again here, just a little bit further down. I like Spirit of the Games for Dan Skelton. I also like Caribbean Boy, 2 cliff horses for most people, but these 2 horses I don't think are going to have big targets at the Cheltenham Festival. So I actually think even though this is a trials day, this could actually be the big day for these 2 horses as well. Caribbean Boy has been campaigning quite a lot of 3 miles recently. The drop back to 2 mile 4 is going to suit him much better. I think it will help his jumping as well. And Spirit of Games does his best work late on. I think there's going to be plenty of pace in this race. And just for the sake as well of finding some each way value, I will put up 2 days. Spirit of Games, 18-1, Caribbean Boy, 20-1.
Fair play. And there's a few big handicaps, not just at Cheltenham, there's a couple at Doncaster as well. So where you get those extended places, I've talked about block bets before, where you might want to put more than one selection in each leg, each race. Those 2 are pretty decent shouts, to be fair. I think everyone's had a few put on Spirit of the Games at some point in their life, haven't they?
Yeah,
always looks like one day he's going to do it, and maybe the next time. Right, Cotswold Chase. Good looking race, to be fair. And it's one of those that I feel like probably rightfully so. It's not the best Gold Cup trial, but then at the end of the day, there is only one Gold Cup. So you're going to struggle to find bundles of trials where winning horses, all that sort of stuff, especially when they're being saved to peak in March. Like, I don't want to poo-poo this as a trial completely, but not like historically it has been a bit weak. I think this year's renewal looks much, much better. I've got a real big, I say a big soft spot like I have. Ahoy Senior, I still don't think we've seen him yet. Lucinda Russell's throwing me under the bus as well, because every time he runs, she's like, I was really pleased with that. And he's run pretty shit, but he was good in the King George, I thought, for a track that didn't particularly suit. I would have expected, because his jumping was so much better, that he actually would have been in and around the finishing pack. Like, he was miles beat, but she was happy with the run. So I do think he's better around here. So I give him like a bit of a squeak. He is 8-1. Sky better doing their money back for second and third offer in this race. So if you're having like your cheeky little tenors on for the sake of backing something, I would massively suggest just stick a tenner on Ahoy Senior, because I think he could do it. You may just lose your tenner though, mightn't you? I do think like Protectorat is the one to be. I don't really buy into the Noble Yates run at Aintree, if I'm honest with you. He finished so like quickly that I don't do the timings or that sort of thing, but it's like a horse shouldn't have that sort of turn of foot, especially when he's a type of horse that when he ran in an Ultima here before, maybe they were saving him for the national. When he ran the Ultima, he was pretty pants round here. And then you got in that race as well, I'm pretty sure Dashel Drasher was in there as well. I'm not convinced he's like a real 3 mile stayer. So we've seen how Ahoy Senior was fairly weak in the finish at the King George. I think Noble Yates was just like massively inflated by horses that weren't like really staying. So him being 2-1 and making up some of the market, I think makes Protectorat potentially a bet. I'd have him more like probably about like 5-4, 6-4. So there's not too much juice in there. But if Protectorat was to go up to about 2-1, I'll have a reasonable bet on Protectorat. As it stands at the moment, I've literally stuck a tenner on my dad's account on Ahoy Senior, hoping he gets his tenner back for second or third. How do you see it? Are you excited about the race?
I am excited about the race, but like you, I don't think the value's too intriguing, to be honest. We sort of know what we've got with a few of these, bar Ahoy Senior. But I do like your angle with him there, because we've seen that he's a very good horse. We have seen it. We know it's there. It's not a case of a few of these trying to reach a certain level. We know that engine's in there. But perhaps with him dictating the pace, he might be seen to a little bit of better effect. But then obviously we've got Frodon in the race, which may throw him off, but I think that might actually help him. If he's got a little bit of company at front, he may just settle a little bit better, something to look at, something to keep onto his eyesight as well. But I do see this between the front 2 in the market. I fancy Noble Yates for the Gold Cup, and I might be falling for it. I understand that with the way that he's running. He's won over 2 mile 2, 2 mile 3, 2 mile 6, 2 mile 7, 3 mile 1, 4 mile 2. You don't see many horses that can do that. And I give him a slight pass for the Ultima, because it was on the old course. And when he comes to the Gold Cup, they'll have that longer running, and they do tend to go quick. So I think for the Gold Cup, Noble Yates will have a good chance. providing it goes okay here, because it's going to be a big ask, I think, to beat Protectorat, who was third in the race, obviously, last year. But he looks like a better horse this year to me. He won the Betfair Chase, but again, he just feels like one of those nearly horses. But I could see Protectorat mopping up here with Noble Yates finishing second. But I do still think Noble Yates will have a good shot in the Gold Cup. I haven't seen many horses that stay that far with that sort of turn of foot since Aplutard won it, obviously, last time. So I think Protectorat's going to take the world of beating actually this weekend, Dave, but I don't fancy him for the Gold Cup. I prefer Noble Yates, so switching roles in that sense.
I like it. When I was looking at Protectorat, I was sort of hoping if the Skeltons really wanted to win the Gold Cup with him, I would have preferred to see him go there fresher, because I think after a big ass break, he is a better horse. But they know better than I do. I feel like he's been one of those, because I had that sort of thought. If he gets beat in this, they'll say, well, today wasn't the Gold Cup. He was only 8% fit or something like that. And that's where it starts to come into it a little bit. I feel like Noble Yates is the type of horse that you probably could keep going the whole time. It doesn't look like a horse that maybe needs his runs, but as it's that, like I would expect, I think the market's probably got it about right, to be honest with you. But I think it's going to be a good race. Let's hope there's no real shocks, because otherwise it makes the Gold Cup picture look even more confusing. Hopefully it just happens as it should. Cleeve Hurdle. This is very straightforward to me, like piece of piss. One of the boys in the group as well, he said I'm not allowed to steal his thunder, so I won't quote the exact numbers. I mean, I can get it up on here. Was talking about Paisley, right? I'm sure you've already got a soft spot for Paisley, because everyone should have a soft spot for Paisley. He was talking about his last few runs and about betting him in running, right? So because he's an even money poke in this race. Admittedly, he wasn't an even money shot the last 3 races that he won, but his last 3 races that he won, he touched 29-1 or 28-1 on the big machine last time, touched 48 on the machine the time before, and 65 when he won at Ascot a while back. When he has been a bit shorter and included in this race in 2020, he was sent off 4-6, only touched 1.83. So his argument was Paisley will win this race, but he was saying you probably could back him in running on the exchanges. You could probably put 2-1 up on there, and you could get the 2-1. So I don't know whether I want to do that or not, because I think he's going to win this. We'll see what happens. I reckon the bookies might take on. He's about 5-4 at the minute, isn't he? But Gelino Bello, like, he is a failed chaser. I would have liked to see him have another poke over fences, to be honest with you. I don't like the fact they've aborted it so soon. And the Kempton race, I don't think was ever going to suit him. So strange one. I can kind of see why he would be fancy this. I can't see how he's a 3-1 poke behind Paisley Park, really. On the figures, Paisley's well clear. I don't think Dashwood Rasher stays. I know people will argue with that. He's just going to set this up for Paisley by going out in front. Botox Has is an interesting one, because probably does have some free, like the 3 mile form, albeit like in a handicap. I don't think he's good enough to potentially win this, and obviously get, like, he's running off the same weight as Paisley as well. So if he was getting a few pounds, that might lure him in a little bit more. He's 11-1, but if you extend the places with Bet365 people like that, you can get about 7 or 8. I can't imagine that he's going to have like loads in front of him. Like, he will finish in the top 3. So Botox Has could be a bit of a scummy little each way play, but I'm probably going to back Paisley. I can't go real deep in on him, just for the fact that he's going for his 4th one now. They didn't run it in 2021, maybe one of the years. So I think it was 2021 they didn't run. It was like bad ground, it was taken off. So he would have already had 4 by now. And like, to think that Paisley Park could potentially go for like the equivalent of like a 5th Cleeve Hurdle is mental, considering he's 11. But his last 2 runs have been as good as anything he's done in his career, as far as I'm concerned. So Paisley's the one to beat, but there's always just that little air of he has had like heart problems. He can race off the bridle. He is an 11-year-old. So as much as I want to get stuck in, I will be reserved and I won't. But I'll probably have a ton on him, I reckon. If he goes 6-4 or bigger, I will. If he starts getting bigger than that, then I might have a little bit more on. But I feel like it could be a stupid bet. But there we are. That's my thoughts on it. Probably like heart over head a bit more with him. Well, how do you see the race, mate?
Yeah, I echo most of your thoughts, to be honest with you. I think he's obviously the best horse actually in the race. It's not even a question. He is the best horse in the race. It's just hard to back a quirky horse at 5-4. It's like backing Goshen at 5-4. You'd really question whether you want to put your money down or just save it for a few beers in the evening or not, to be honest. I do think Drasher will stay, but like I don't think he's going to have the gears or a turn of foot to beat Paisley. So like you, I think whatever happens with Dashel Drasher, it's going to set up really well for Paisley. Gelino Bello as well, they just admitted defeat over fences already, coming straight back. It's quite an interesting change so late on in the season as well. And again, like you, I think Botox Has, he loves Cheltenham. He's probably going to be the one that just goes about his business. Like no one's going to get in his way. A few of them have got plans, and he's going to be able to go about his business, run his race, and probably come back to form a little bit in this race with better horses around him as well. I do think we don't give him credit enough. He's probably a bit of a better horse than what we've actually seen. He can definitely hack it with a few of these as well. So I'm like you. I think Paisley Park gets the job done regardless. I won't be backing him just on the slight quirks. But I'd like to see Botox has run a nice runner-up spot as well, Dave. So I echo your words there.
Beautiful. I will give a mention to someone else as well. Molly Ollie's Wishes last season, I think it was. I gave her like a bit of an outside poke for the Stairs Hurdle. They didn't even give her a Stairs Hurdle entry this year. When I was looking at the entries for this, she's like not all the way down the bottom, but she was quite low down the list. So I didn't even scroll that far down after seeing a few of the runners. Didn't even know she was in there. Saw she might have been up against Epatante, and I was thinking, well, she needs a trip. That's not even a race for Epatante. And she is in here. So I went back and double checked, and they haven't given her a Stairs Hurdle entry. So that's enough for me to think, not that this is going to be her Cheltenham, is enough for me to say they don't actually think she's up to it. They look at this race and thinking, it's not that deep a race. She could probably pick up some prize money. So I'll give her a little mention just because I thought she could have shaped into a Stairs Hurdle horse. But the way that this grade 2 runs, it's not like your normal grade ones where she get the £7 just clear out, penalty systems and all those bits and pieces in there. She's not as well in as she may be in normal open company. But I had to mention her just for the fact of I put her up last year, and I know someone will start saying to me, don't you fancy her, mate? No, I don't.
You must need it a little bit deeper though, Dave, than this, surely. I got when we
Well,
went on.
It is soft, isn't it? And they're talking about these frost covers and stuff going down. Like, I think, especially by the time it gets there, that's the other key thing to remember. I know the cross country's not going to be on there. We've got 9 races going on, haven't we? So by the time it gets through to that, there will have been 6 races on the race car on the track. So I reckon it's going to be as the racing goes on. I think it's just going to get more and more and more tested, which is interesting when I come onto the 2-mile handicap at the back of the things as well. But before that, we've got the classic novice hurdle. This is a race I love. There's been in the past, was it maybe Santini and Black Op, and then one was favourite for the Albert Bartlett, one was like highly priced for Paddy more than we've had. At Fisher's Cross was in here, I think, the new one. But there's all types of horses, right, that have come sort of first and second in here, and they go off to be prevalent in the Albert Bartlett and for the Ballymore. So it's a race I start to get excited about, and I start to look at horses thinking, could any of these be those types? No would be my answer. I don't think anything's in here is good enough to actually win a Ballymore or win an Albert Bartlett. Henry II looks good, but I can't see how he's going to concede so much weight to such a big field. It's not a race that I really want to get stuck into or really bet anything. The one that I've had a small bet on, but I'm purely doing this because I think I'll be able to like trade it. I've backed it because I wanted a bit bigger, right? So it's Can You Call for the Ruckers, Adam Wedge and Evan Williams. This ran on debut at Chepstow, right? And they backed this horse like it could not be beat. He travelled into it like an absolute travelly thing. American Sniper for Height beat him. The two of them were well clear. But he just looked like he had loads more left in the tank, didn't see out the race at the end of it. And then you question, was it just he wasn't that good? Or was it that, I don't know, he had a bit of an attitude or whatever it was? He ran in a handicap the time after. It was only off of 118, but he duly obliged after that. And I think this horse is probably well worthy of being like a mid 130s at the moment, but with the potential that he could run into the 140s. So I thought he might end up being popular. He was about 14s but in the short-term anti-post. Then when they've done the book now, he's 10-1 top price. I think he should be like single figures. I can't see him being much shorter than like 7-1 or something. So I've just, for the fact that I said it before and I've had to like follow myself in, I've had 25 quid on him at 10s with Bet365, but I will be looking to lay that on the exchanges just to free roll for like 50 quid or something. I think he'll be the type of horse that if there's a little bit of money for it, because the Ruckers like a gamble, didn't they? I can see people going overboard on him, and then I can see him drifting back out on the day. But that's the way that I've sort of looked at this race. No interest for future festival targets, no interest in getting stuck into one. I've sort of purely looked at it on my mind, just thinking, this is what I think the market might do. Any of the ones in here you do like, though, and who do you reckon is going to win the race?
Yeah, quite sweet on one in here, actually, Dave. I think one might go under the radar a little bit, even though we've only seen the one run from him, and that's actually Rock My Way for Sid Hosey. He's currently 5-1, and I actually think he should be a little bit shorter than that, to be honest with you. The two at the front of the market still seem a little bit raw. And they've actually got to show that they can handle it going up in trip, up in better company as well. So I really like the way Rock My Way ran here last time. He finished second, so we've all been caught for, obviously, Twiston Davis. And he made a really nice late charge as well, doing all of his best work late on. Early on in the race, he was actually a little bit green. He's one that's worth going back and watching. He did all of his best work. He learned well on the job. And I think he's just going to go underlooked here just because of the names and the trainers surrounding the other horses in the market. But I think 5-1 is an absolute steal. He's sure to come on for that run, and he's going to stay. Like you said, you make a really good point. With all the racing prior to these races, it is going to cut up quite a lot on the ground. So to be honest, that makes my selection even a bit more stronger in that way. I think he's very, very unexposed from what he showed that day. And We've All Been Caught was due to be coming here. entered at around favourite, I think, at one point. So rock my way for small trainer Sid Hosey to get a nice winner at Cheltenham on a big day, big Saturday at Cheltenham.
I like it. And the owners of that, right, the Sherborne, I think they're Sherborne Utilities now, they've gone for all sorts of different names. When they first took over a few of them, it was Lieutenant Rocco was the first one that I noticed with it. They got a bundle of these horses, and I was convinced that there was some sort of conspiracy going on because one of the guys that was involved had some previous for doing bits. None of their horses were winning. I was backing them just blind for small stakes the last couple of seasons. But yeah, I always pay attention to their silks. And yeah, ran massive race the last day. Also interested to note that I think, it must have been in its point, was maybe 11 lengths behind In the Know, the one that everyone's bumming for the bumper now.
Yes, so, and then he won. Sorry, yeah, and then he won next time his next point as well. I think they bought him for about 100 grand. Like, so he's a good purchase as well for a small stable for sure.
Definitely. And you can look at on odds checker now. You can there's a few doing extended places. So Bet365, Sky Bet are both doing 4 places at 50 odds, and they're both 7 to 1 about this one. So, like you say, ground cutting up looks like a stair, doesn't he? So get on, fill your boots. Right, let's move on to the lucky last. There's one that I fancy in here. I didn't want to say at the top of the show just to keep the retention up, because if you really want to watch the whole show, you'll get the good bets, wouldn't you? It's a really interesting one, this, for me, to be honest with you. I'm like a little bit annoyed with the one that I want to back because I can't get on with Ladbrokes Coral. I need to have a little few messages out tonight, and they're top price in this also. I'll just go straight in with this one. It's Photonet for Venetia Williams. I think it's Lucy Turner. She rode what was the one that won the Kim Muir?
Chambard.
That's it, Chambard. So she, like, people who like say they don't know about people, all that sort of stuff. Like, she's won a Kim Muir at Cheltenham Festival, so she's more than capable, right? I mean, Mr. Coffee did throw it away, but still, she's like, this horse is 33s, right? I gave it a mention, and I actually think I did tip it up when it ran at Aintree, because when the whole Gaelic Warrior thing came in again, like looking at the French marks, the marks that this one had run off, it should have been potentially in the 140s. Now, it was given an opening mark, and then it ran behind Love Envoy at Sandown in a mare's race, but like just was never really going, like pulled up on both of those occasions when it ran at Aintree and then when it ran the last day at Sandown. They've put a hurdle on it now, right? But the run at Aintree was just, I'm trying to think of a better way, but it was just woeful, right? There was no hope. You wouldn't watch that and think this horse is ever going to do anything. The Sandown run was pretty similar as well. So it is a complete and utter swing for this one, but it's in a handicap. It's the trip that should sort of suit. And then, like I say, the ground could cut up. Those sort of staying types might prefer it. She's 33 to 1 with Colin Ladbrokes. She's 25s elsewhere, as low as like 20s in some places. I reckon she'll get backed. And I think the Venetia group will get involved as well. I say the Venetia group, I just mean all the Twitter people that say Venetia will wins, all sorts of stuff. But I'm going to be backing that, and it is punty as anything. The other one that I want to back it with, because there will be some extended places, and I think there's a bit of a chance on a few of these. The second one that I wanted to do a bet on is Might I. I'm going to have a little, I say a little bit. I'm going to do won't necessarily be stake saver. So what I'll probably do is I'll see if I can get, I don't know, maybe I'll do 12.50 each way on Photonet with Coral and Ladbrokes if I can. It's normally 25 quid a point, and then I'll probably have 25 quid on Might I, because I think Might I is the best horse in the race, and I do think the dropping back in trip's going to suit him as well. Like, they've tried him over, I haven't got the race post up at the minute, but I'm sure they've even tried to reach for him to go for 3 miles in the past, or they've thought about it. I know he's gone 2.5 recently. He needs to come back in trip, but if you go back to his form at the beginning of last season, and this will get people excited, it's easily done, isn't it? Only 14 lengths behind Constitution, isn't he? And at the time that those two were going to war against each other in that Tolworth, Might I was vying for favouritism at one point. So he's well regarded. He is clearly full of ability. And I think at the front of the market of the short price ones, he's the one that stands out. So I'll be having 25 on Might I, and I'll be having 12.50 each way on Photonet at 33 to 1. Joe, how do you see it?
Well, I think you sold both of them to me. That's hammer down situation, isn't it? That's interesting, that Photonet one as well. I noticed the first time he ran over here was in a grade 1 as well. That was actually behind Night Salute, and that was at Aintree. So seriously been highly tried as well. Like you said, you might have found a little bit of a sneaky one, and Lucy Turner's already done a job on a few punters at Cheltenham already. So absolutely. And I think I'm going to take your selections here, Dave, because Mai Tai as well, like you said, after Constitution Hill, sort of proved his genuine form, because he was only 4 lengths behind John Bon after that as well. So he's obviously doing something right. No, I'm not really taking them from you though, Dave, but seriously, yeah, absolutely sold on those. I think to finish off though, I'd take a little bit of a punt on Malacana as well for Ian Williams. hasn't really got the form to suggest that he's going to come out and win this race, but he's one hell of a sneaky trainer, Ian Williams, and he knows how to get him ready for a big day. He's managed to get this one in off a really low mark after showing plenty last season in particular. Come out this season, not so good last time out at Newbury, but I like Ian Williams for a course and distance winner as well, who knows his way around Cheltenham. I think that bodes for a lot more than it would at most tracks. So I'm just going to take a chance that I've had a decent day, Dave, and I'm going to try and finish on a 20-1 winner in Malacana.
Happy days. Well, hopefully this has been useful for you viewers out there with our thoughts on what we fancy for some of the racing. It is nice and competitive. If there's anything you strongly fancy, please drop it in the comments, because any help is appreciated. I'll be there racing on the Saturday. I'm guessing you'll be there, Joe, right?
Always, Dave.
Happy days. So fingers crossed it does go ahead. If not, we'll be there Sunday, but I'm sure it'll go ahead Saturday. I really appreciate you coming on, Joe. Like I said at the beginning of it, I mean, no one will be here now, but if you are here now, please do make sure you're subscribed to the channel. He's very close to the 1,000 subscribers mark. Go give him a follow on Twitter and make sure you subscribe to me and like the video. Thank you very much, guys. And thank you, Joe, for your time.
Cheers, Dave.